My goal is to elevate your financial consciousness, and to also you just put more money in your pocket, put you in a better financial situation. I can't put you in a better financial situation. You have to put yourself in a better financial situation, but I can be kind of like a guide, like a Jiminy Cricket, and kind of help you in that process. I've had a crazy week. I I went to New Jersey and New York and Philadelphia and Atlanta and in other places I can't even remember. I met two college presidents. I met the governor of New Jersey. His name was Phil. He was a very nice guy, and he got up on the stage and he quoted from something that I said, and I was like, "Don't be up here quoting me, trying to get on my good side, man. You know I don't trust y'all politicians. I still don't. I ain't gonna lie. I still don't trust politicians. I think, unfortunately, they're good at talking, and unfortunately, they're really, really great at lying." And I think also to some extent, though, it's not so much their fault in the sense that it's just the system. It's a system that takes on a life of its own. Capitalism is built around sort of this ownership of your politics, and it's not healthy for the country. When they really let money into politics, I think they ruin politics. I really believe that. When they started, you know, when they started to kind of let the people with the most money win the elections, I think that's when America kind of lost its soul. So now, you see in the White House, most of the people that are in the White House right now, and I think this will be true when the Democrats take power again, most of the people in the White House now are connected financially on some level. And so that really speaks even more deeply to the point that I've always made that in America, money's what drives everything. If you want to understand ridiculous things that people do or odd behavior of any, person or politician, just follow the money. I guarantee if you follow the money, you're going to get insights that you did not have before. And speaking of following the money, later on today, if you're interested in the income in making income from stock options, everybody that is in the Prime program, we're going to meet today at 8:30 p.m. Eastern tonight. I sent you all a text and an email with the information to join. And so if you want to join us tonight, I'm going to lay out some strategies that can make you money on Monday. This is not hype. This is not get rich quick. This is stuff that actually works. This is the stuff I'm going to do myself. So if you want to join us tonight, you can. If you're not a member yet and you want to give it a try, just take a visit to drboyceprime.com. On that special link, there is a discount where you can join for a substantially discounted price. So feel free to join us. It's a great program. A lot of people like it. All right, so let's see what's happening in the world of economics right now. One thing that's going on that I want you to kind of keep an eye on is this war. If this war continues to escalate, that's going to have profound impacts on things like the price of oil, things like that. And the price of oil is connected to inflation. If you have inflation and you also have, say, a slowing economy, which I told you guys that I believe right now we could be in a recession right now. I really believe that. If you have that combination of inflation and a slowing economy, you have what is called stagflation. Stagflation is badflation. Stagflation is not, stagflation is the ultimate hater. It's like an economic ditty party. You don't want to go to a stagflation party. It won't make you feel very good. And so basically with stagflation, you then have a dilemma by the Federal Reserve. They're not quite able to fix the economy the way they normally do. Normally they just inject, they inject stimulus. They spend money and reduce interest rates and all these other things that the government can do. But in a stagflationary economy, it's a whole different animal. It's very, very difficult and very, very complex. So that's another thought. The other thing I wanted to do was I wanted to share with you something I'm invested in right now. I have become. Has anybody ever seen? Does anybody know? How many of y'all know what an Evatol is? Anybody seen Evatolls out there? Anybody? Am I the only one who's nerdy enough to watch this stuff? Evatolls are the coolest thing in the world, by the way. Evatolls are like these these things. They're I think electric vertical takeoff and landing somethings, right? And what they kind of do, what the eVTOLs do, is basically they just they take off, like a helicopter, and then they take you to the airport, and then they land like a helicopter. And so I'm investing in eVTOLs now. I've been investing for a while. I'm going to keep investing. My top two favorite eVTOL stocks are Joby and Archer. aviation. If you could look them up. I don't have the tickers. I think Joby's ticker is just Joby. I think Archer's ticker is like Arch or something. But don't worry about looking up the ticker. You could just look up Joby on your app or Archer, and you can find it that way. And again, if you're not familiar with how to invest in stocks and how to get started, I want everybody in here to be in the stock market because that's the number one wealth driver on the planet, and it's very, very important for you to be involved where the money is. If you can't get the money, I mean, seriously, this is where I go back to like the frustrated side of me. That really leans on this thing called common sense, which isn't very common. Do you understand me when I tell you that if you that in order to get money, you have to go where the money's located? Does anybody know that, or am I? I hope that doesn't sound like I'm trying to be a smart ass or anything, but it's really fascinating to me how many people are searching for money where there is none. That's the weird thing to me. Like if you want, they always say you can take the horse to the water, but you can't make him drink. Well, we've taken horses to the dirt, and then you're drinking dirt. You can't get water if you're drinking dirt. So to get the water, you got to go to the water and then you got to drink the water. So the financial water in America is in the stock market. Most of these oligarchs and billionaires and trillionaires, well, eventually we're going to have a trillionaire. These very wealthy people that we see, that everybody complains about, they got their money from the stock market. Most of their wealth, if you look at their net worth, which is assets minus liabilities, that number is heavily driven by their participation in the stock market. I hope you guys know that. So, and in fact, actually, I don't know if y'all know this, but there are actually communities. I forgot there's one in Maryland where the average wealth level of the black people there, it's a mostly black county. It's like maybe is it Glen Arden or something like that? Somebody help me if I said that right or wrong. And I could have sworn they said that the average person in that city, average black person, has a wealth or net worth that's higher than the average American. Like literally, there is no racial wealth gap. I think I thought it was Prince George's County, but it wasn't Prince George's County. It was like I think I could have sworn it was like Glen Arden or something like that. Either way, it was in Maryland. I remember that specifically, and that really defeats this myth that being black means you have to be in a deficit to whites, right? Like that deficit thinking is really about culture. It's really about the fact that the culture that's promoted to blacks is a anti-wealth culture. The culture promoted to blacks is an anti-family culture, which is a very anti-wealth. The culture promoted to blacks is a pro-incarceration culture, which is anti-wealth. The culture promoted to blacks is it's pro-baby mama, pro irresponsibility, pro financial irresponsibility, and this is what your issue is. Your issue is the culture, and so in fact, in my book, The Ten Commandments of Black Economic Power, I wrote all about culture. Like, what does an economic culture look like? What are some rules? Okay. Let's see. Number one, always be an asset to your family because a lot of us have family members that are not assets to the family. They're liabilities. They show up with their hand out instead of giving you a hand up. They feel like the world owes them something. And it's hard to build with somebody who's destroying everything you build, right? It's hard to pay off debt if the person that you're partnering with is just accumulating more debt. So just a mindset is huge. Number two, buy black whenever possible. Right? We spend so much time talking about which white business we're going to boycott, which means that once they stop their behavior, we're going to start giving them our money again. I don't participate in the boycotts, not because I don't agree, but because I'm like, well, would you please stop boycotting your own businesses? Because you've been boycotting black businesses for a long time. Why? Well, because your financial consciousness doesn't even include black businesses. When you consciously think about where to spend your money, you're not even considering the black guy. So the black guy isn't just he's not being boycotted. See, I got to respect you to even take the time to boycott you. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like, in order for me to get mad at you and to fight with you, I got to even acknowledge your existence. That's why I always tell you, like, don't be fighting with your ex. Don't be talking about your ex. Don't be hating on your ex because what you're doing is you're showing respect to that person. Like, if I really want to disrespect you, let me know if you follow what I'm saying. This is a consciousness discussion here. Let me know if you get this. If you really want to annihilate someone just from just really, really reduce them to nothingness, take them out of your sphere of consciousness. Like, don't even think about them. Like, so if you ask me about an ex, I'm not gonna say, "Oh man, that old raggedy blankety blank. I can't stand that lady. I hope she's burning in hell." No, that's me honoring her, honestly. But really the way to the really way real way to show that I've like kind of elevated is to say, gosh, oh yeah, that was an interesting experience. I hope she's doing well. I've moved on. I'm indifferent. And I'm not saying that your goal should be to hate on your ex. I'm saying that really when you don't understand when you react to something or someone, you're acknowledging that person. You're empowering that. You're giving power to that thing. You're giving attention to that thing. Attention is a commodity. Just like money's a commodity, just like stocks is a commodity, or real estate's a commodity. Attention's a commodity. You don't believe me? Ask Mark Zuckerberg how much money he makes per year, how many billions he makes from getting your attention while you sitting there doom scrolling on your phone, staring at your phone. I don't know if y'all know this, but when they actually look at a person's life and they take out the time they spend sleeping, in traffic, using the bathroom, or going to work, the remaining free time, they spend 93% of that free time scrolling. Did you know that? The average 18-year-old is expected to spend 93% of their free time looking at a screen, and that's worth billions of dollars to the people that can convince them to do that. Okay, so here's my point. So when you are taking the time to say, let's all go boycott Target, you're really making an assumption there. The assumption is that if Target behaves, we're going to go back to giving them our money. The assumption is that we were already giving them money in the first place. That's the only way you can boycott someone and make it work, is if you were already giving them money in the first place. Black-owned businesses don't even get in that conversation because you weren't giving them money anyway. Do you understand? All right. So rather than focusing on what you hate, my argument, my hope, my if I was I don't know if Jamal Bryant will ever talk to me again, because I think I probably said enough things to irritate people, but I stand on what I say. I don't back off of that. If I really want to deal with Target, then I don't even talk about Target. I say, instead of talking about what I hate, I'm gonna talk about what I love. Instead of talking about what I'm mad about, I'm gonna talk about what I can be happy about. Instead of talking about what I'm against, I'm gonna talk about what I'm for. Love is the strongest force in the universe. Hate is just sort of this inferior resistance level. So rather than me talking about how much I hate Target, I'm gonna talk about how much I love black-owned businesses. Because if I'm busy loving you, I ain't got time to be hating somebody else. Do you understand? If I'm loving my wife, then I ain't got time to sit around and be mad about my ex, right? If I say, gosh, I would honor you by giving you my attention right now and telling you how much I can't stand you, but in fact, I haven't even thought about you, and because I'm thinking so much about the things that I love. Do you follow what I'm saying? Do you get what I'm saying? Right? So love yourself, love your businesses, love your community, love your children, love your assets, love your situation. Stop falling in love or connecting to or getting mad about somebody else's situation. One of the biggest wealth killers is a phenomenon they talk about called keeping up with the Joneses. A lot of people walk around with so much anger and hate and competition and jealousy in their heart for how somebody else is doing and what somebody else got, that they ain't getting nothing themselves. You're spending so much time being mad about someone else's accumulation that you haven't taken the time to do any accumulation of your own, because wealth accumulation requires time, energy, and attention. It requires time, energy, and attention. So if you are putting time, energy, and attention into talking about how much you can't stand somebody, giving all your attention to what they got versus what you got, and you're just constantly focused on this other thing, how are you going to spend time building anything? Seriously, how do you can't build? You're spending time fighting and destroying. So don't do that. Focus on what you love. Love is the key. Love will get you a long way. I promise you. All right. So anyway, here's a few other things in the book. By the way, if you want a copy of the book, you can go to don't go to Dr. Boyce Books. You can get actually discounted copies. And I told you guys, if you want to be in our Black Wealth Ambassadors program, you can actually buy an autographed copy in my book for a substantial discount. The regular price is $40 for an autographed copy where I sign it and send it to you. You guys can have it for $15, and you can resell it if you want to. You know what? Hey, I was sitting there and I was like, this is so cool. The governor of New Jersey is quoting me. I must be somebody. People must be paying attention to what I have to say. So I want you guys to benefit. If I'm gonna be famous, I want my relatives to make money from my fame. So if you know people that say, oh gosh, you're in Dr. Boyce's class, I like Dr. Boyce, you can say, well, I've got an autographed copy of his book and I can give it to you for $30, and you buy it from me for 15, and then you can resell it for 30, 40, whatever you can sell it for. Make it part of your investment club. Make it part of your church group. Make it part of an event that you're holding, and make money. Like that is how you develop an economic ecosystem. The Black Business School, I need the Black Business School to do well. I need the Black Business School to make income, because that's how we're going to be strong and free and able to tell the truth and to do the work that needs to be done. But I do not want that to happen at your expense. I want us to build an economy where we're helping you, you're helping us. That's it. We got your back, you got ours, and then we're able to form independent economic ecosystems that directly and deliberately put money in your pocket and put money into the institution so that we can make this thing last for the next 500 years. That's how we're building this. All right. So anyway, a couple more things I want to drill into. There's something else. I put this on my Instagram. My Instagram is Dr. Boyce Finance, by the way. If you want to follow me on the gram. Um, Here is the next thing I had on my Instagram. Let me see if I can make it. Here we go. Yeah, okay. So this is something I just shared. This tells you what's going on in America in terms of the political chaos and volatility. Did anybody see that where there were a couple of politicians that got shot? Because I think because they didn't vote in the direction of their colleagues or something, and they got a husband and wife got killed. This speaks to a risk factor in your world and in your investing that you want to pay attention to. This Democrat Republican gangster stuff going on is not healthy for America, and it's not healthy for your economics. And if it ever got really out of control, that could affect your stocks. And I've told you guys, I feel like there's a big risk factor around the corner. I feel like there's a bear lurking in the woods. There's a demon standing around the corner that's going to pop out and create what in economics is called a black swan event. A black swan event is like an event that just broadsides you, body slam you, smacks you upside the head. I don't know if it's going to be something crazy over in Iran. I don't know if it's going to be something happening domestically, but I feel like there is something just lurking in the background. I don't know if it's the pending recession, which may be triggered by student loans and trade tariffs, but I feel like something crazy is going to happen. So you may want to protect your portfolio. If you want to see anything in terms of a training that can help with that, I did a training called Stormproof Investing. If you go to stormproofinvesting.com, you can pick it up. That's stormproofinvesting.com. What else? Here's another thing I'm investing in. Feel free to take a look at this. The AI revolution is going to cause a shortage in uranium. Uranium is necessary because uranium is critical for the building of nuclear power plants and nuclear reactors. Nuclear power had fallen out of favor largely because of Three Mile Island and Chernobyl and the Fukushima, and so everyone sort of started to poo-poo on nuclear power. Well, nuclear is making a comeback, I guess, because they think that they can now do it safely. Who knows? We'll find out. But either way, they're going to do it regardless. And companies like Oklo, if you saw that stock Oklo we were talking about a year and a half ago, that sucker was, we started talking about when it was about $10 a share. Now it's up in the 60s. I bought some more, by the way. I bought some more. I sold some long-term out of the money call options on the stock just in case the stock collapses. I also bought lots of puts just in case it drops back down, but there's a chance it could keep going up because this industry is going to get more demand. So here's an ETF in uranium you can feel free to take a look at. It's the Global X Uranium ETF. The ticker symbol is URA. And as you can see, apparently it must have been I recommended this to you guys about a year ago, and it looks like it's done quite well the last 3 months, about 52% in the last 3 months. What are the crazy things I've ever been talking about? That was me. I just ranted the other day because I got some stupid question about this. I'm gonna stop here, right? Because this is something I'm not gonna rant again, but this was something that really kind of gets to me, and I want to make sure you understand this as you learn about investing. When I mentioned this stock that I was that we were talking about Oklo, and one guy came in and he made a point that I guess I think is worth responding to, and he says, well, instead of telling us about the stocks that have already done well, why don't you tell us about the next stock that's going to do well, that's going to be the next big one? And I just paused for a minute and I was like, how do I frame this response without sounding like an asshole? And the way I framed it was I said, the stock market is not a casino. This is you are not playing the numbers. You are not on the casino boat. You know how people get their paycheck and they go to the boat. Anybody know anybody like that? This ain't the boat. This ain't the bingo hall. This is not rolling the dice, shooting craps. If you want to gamble, you should go to Vegas. You should order the DraftKings app and you can bet on who's going to win the NBA championship if that's not over yet already. I'm not paying attention. Um, you can go bet on the Kentucky Derby or something. But this idea that somehow I'm a professor and my PhD is legitimate. I always tell people because there's so many fake people on the internet talking about financial stuff. I tell people, look, my dissertation's online. You can go look it up. You can call Ohio State and say, did a Boyce Watkins finish her PhD program? And they're going to say yes. Um, so because this is my area, I have to say, like, stop letting people make you think that there are people who can predict which stock is going to be the next big stock. Nobody knows which stock is going to be the next Nvidia. If I knew that, man, I would put all my money into one company and be done with it. Nobody knows which stock is going to be the next Apple. Nobody knows which stock is going to be the next Oklo. Nobody knows. And what's challenging for me is I have a bunch of people never took a finance class in their life, don't have a degree in nothing, who will sit there and tell people, "Oh, buy this and buy that, and this stock is going to be big." And people will take advice from those. They'll have a cousin who with a GED who says, "Oh, I found a good stock you should buy," and we'll go buy the stock because your cousin said it. And I encourage you just stop for a moment and ask yourself, is there any evidence that this individual has any stock picking capability? And if and I can tell you that as a person who's read thousands of research papers on this topic, they study this all the time. They constantly study whether or not you can look at some characteristic of the stock's past performance and predict what the future performance is going to be. And the answer is no. It's a whole theory. I think they won the Nobel Prize on it. It's called the random walk hypothesis. So what I told the brother was I was like, okay, boys, come on, because I admit I told you all about about the connection. Dr. Alicia in our Black Financial Therapy department is doing research on the connection between childhood trauma and our financial decisions, and what she's really exposed to a lot of us is how trauma affects you in so many other areas of your life. So I was heavily traumatized, so I have to monitor that. So I was like, okay, boys, let's not do a trauma response because I know you're angry. Let's try to be calm and make it clear because I get fired up when people just do. I'm just it's like, why are we even having this conversation? Because I'm not going to debate with you over this. I debated my dissertation chair. That was traumatic enough. So the way I would describe it to you, if you even want to hear what I have to say, is that the way you participate in the next Nvidia or the next Oklo or the next Apple or the next Bitcoin is you create a diversified portfolio of a collection of assets that you believe have some chance of being the one that takes off, right? You cannot pinpoint the precise stock that's going to do it and put all your money into that stock. And also, you can't look at the stock that is doing well and say, "Oh, I shouldn't have put my money here. I should put all my money in the stock that's doing good. That one's doing good. I'm gonna put all my money in that." Don't do that. You guys know I'm an investor in Tesla. I told you I don't give a damn about the politics. You could talk about that in the voting booth. I told you what I think about Tesla in terms of the robots and all the AI. We've talked about this. I'm not gonna, but I did meet a brother on a plane, 32 years old, and he was a millionaire. I was really happy for him. And we were talking about his investments. And he was into a lot of black wealth and financial stuff. So I had a COVID mask on, so I don't think he knew he was talking to me. And when I took it off, he kind of flipped out like, "Oh, oh my God, I didn't know you were Dr. Wood," But it was interesting because he told me that he had 95% of his portfolio in Tesla. And I said, I said, I don't tell people what to do. I don't like to do that. I think you're a man, you can do what you want to do. But I think that's a bad idea. I said, because if Elon Musk slips and falls in the shower, then you lose 50% of your, or 30% or whatever of your wealth at that point. So I would consider a slightly more diversified approach, or at least put some money into some put options to protect yourself from the downside risk, that kind of thing. So that's my rant for today. I hope that it was actually a helpful rant. But don't, if you see anybody treating the stock market like it's a casino, you might want to just slow your roll. Because the thing is, in fact, even when the stock does really well and I come in and I'm excited and I tell you guys, like, yeah, remember that stock we were talking about? Look at how good it's doing. I then My goal is to pull you back in and say, okay, let's get back to reality. Like let's not get into having fantasies about how many trillions of dollars we're going to make by doubling up and tripling down and betting it all and all that. That was in fact, I had a really good friend with I had a really good friendship with Damon Dash, and I don't have anything against Damon Dash. If you go back 7, 8 years ago, you'll see what Damon and I did over 100 videos together. We did something called Intelligent Boss Moves, and it was a fun interaction because he had his Rockefeller experience and I had my doctorate, and we would talk about just different ways to view money, and it was fun. People liked it. But one of the things that made me cringe was Dame was a guy that took a lot of risk. He would use terms that were related to gambling. Like he'd say, "I bet it all. I want to bet it all." And I'm sitting there thinking, because again, as a person who has studied risk extensively, One thing that I know that we did study that you should know about is there's something called efficient risk and inefficient risk. Another way to think of it is calculated risk versus risk that really isn't even worth it. Right. So let me give you an example. I'm gonna give you so this conversation could be about risk and how you can perceive risk. Um, let me ask you all this. If I told you, here's what I want you to do. I want you to go outside in front of your house, and I want you to walk down the street on the sidewalk totally naked, and you got to do it for 30 seconds. And if you do it and you don't get arrested or whatever, then you'll get $2 million. $2 million. So you just got to do, let's say 30 seconds. You do 30 seconds naked on the sidewalk and you don't get arrested, you'll get, $2 million. How many of you would take that? How many of you would take that risk? How many of you would be willing to make that investment? Anybody? Okay, Tiffany says I pass. Anybody? Everybody say no. Okay, Natasha says no. Okay. Okay, let's make it 4 million. How about $4 million? Would you do it for 4 million? Now I'm gonna make it hard. Darlene is shy. Oh my gosh, look at this. We got so many virtuous ladies in here. I love this. Okay, Lisa says yes. I think I might have turned Lisa's no into a yes. Rhonda said, of course. Somebody check on poor Rhonda. All right, Latrice says too many variables. I hear you. I hear you. Okay. And I see some absolutely's. Joy said, yep. Okay. All right. So I think, okay. All right. So yeah. So here's what I would say to that, right? In that situation, even though you're doing something you don't want to do, something that's very risky, right? You could get arrested or somebody could take a picture. Somebody could, then when you get arrested, it could be in like, in a newspaper or something, right? And all your friends are talking bad about you. But then you could do it and nothing could happen. Maybe you go out there 8 o'clock in the morning and nobody's looking and you do your 30 seconds and then you collect your 4 million and you live happily ever after. Well, that to me would be like a calculated risk because what it does is it fits a universal idea between the relationship between risk and reward. Like risk is the mother, reward should be the child, meaning you take a risk and you get rewarded for that risk. Most people, you know these things, right? Like how many of you have heard terms like, nothing ventured, nothing gained? Anybody heard terms like that? Anybody heard terms like, scared money don't make money, right? And usually if you talk to most people who are very wealthy or very successful, they'll talk to you about risks that they took that other people wouldn't normally take. Like they might be like, yeah, I was the guy who got naked and walked down the street for 30 seconds and collected 4 million from Dr. Boyce, and that's why I'm rich, right? I wish I could give you 4 million, but I can't. That's not a real offer, but theoretically, yes, right? So you get that, right? That's what you might call an efficient risk in the sense that you're getting rewarded for the risk, right? Now let me switch the offer. What if I said, um, I want you to do the same thing. I want you to walk down the street totally butt naked for 30 seconds and see if you get arrested or not. And you'll get $50 if you can pull it off. How many of you would take that offer? Yes or no? Would anybody take that deal? $50. That's what you get. Whole 50. I'll pay you in cash. Just give me a cash app. Take off your clothes. And it's payday after that, baby. Anybody? Any takers? I don't see no yeses. Oh man. Come on, wimps. Anyway, that would be what you call an inefficient risk. You're taking a risk for no reason. It's a risk that isn't going to give you any reward. Or like if you think about some of the kids that will go out and do really risky things, like they'll go kill somebody because they think that that's cool and whatever, and or the culture, the music, and everything has numbed them to the idea of homicide, and they're not thinking about the consequences. That's an inefficient risk as well, right? That's different from like a soldier who kills someone because they're trying to protect their family, or someone even someone who kills someone to go, because they're robbing a bank and they're going to get $10 million. Not to say that that would be ethical, but if you put the ethics to the side, that could be considered a more efficient risk than just going to do something crazy just to be crazy, just to do it. So basically, with investing, you have risk that you're rewarded for and risk that you're not rewarded for. So when you say, I want to risk it all, I'm going to put everything I've got into this one stock. And if it does well, it's going to make me rich. That's in finance. That's what's referred to as an inefficient risk. because what's happened is that risk can be broken into pieces. There's what they call systematic risk and idiosyncratic risk. Idiosyncratic risk is risk related to that one particular stock. Systematic risk is just the general risk that you take by being an investor in a broad economy. If the economy goes south, all of us are going to get hit. It's like if there's a thunderstorm in the city, everybody gets wet, but that's very different from something that is specific to that company. So what happens is when you diversify, you are smoothing out the risk, right? When you spread your money out, you're getting rid of the effect of any one stock. You should never be an investor in such a way where any one stock is going to ruin you. If you get to the point where you feel like that one company going bankrupt ruins you financially, that means you're not diversified enough. A lot of entrepreneurs have this issue. A lot of entrepreneurs are getting all their money from their business and nothing else. So that means if your business goes south, you're done. The first step a person should do in that situation is find other things that they can be involved with, other places to plant money so that if the business fails, they've got a backup. Other ways to diversify, or other problems with diversification when you have a one job. If you are, say, a single parent with one job with one stream of income and you have no backup, you're in a highly risky situation. You think you have security, but where's your security coming from? Oh, I've got job security because I work for Ford and I've been here for 20 years. I don't know if that's secure enough, right? Because we know corporations will drop you off, dump you on the corner, and not care what happens to you. We know the government's wiping out jobs like a Holocaust. And so diversification, let me give you some areas where diversification should be thought about in ways that I don't think people talk about enough, and I think it's very costly for people economically. Number one, if you when you choose who to date, who to marry, whatever, if you pick somebody that can bring something economic to the table, that's a form of diversification. Why? If I lose my income, my wife has income, we can find a way to survive. If you have a family and everybody in the family is pulling their money together and everybody's making money some different kind of way, that's another form of diversification. Saving your money, having savings is important. That's why I tell you to pay yourself first. That's a type of diversification. It protects you in case you have an economic shock or one of those black swan events I talked about. What else? If you're invested in the stock market over here, real estate over here, you got your business going over there, you got your job pulling income over here, you got your side hustle over here, right? Then you've got multiple streams of income, which protect you in case one of the streams ends up going bad. So really, one of the things that's really interesting about Black people is that on average, Black people tend to be very what they call risk averse. We are conservative people. We're not necessarily Republican. A lot of y'all are Democrats, some of y'all are Republicans, some of y'all are independent. I respect all of that, but we're conservative. We don't do like some of that crazy stuff white folks do. We look at it like, how you gonna get killed? How you gonna go out and get eaten by a shark? White people don't get eaten by sharks. We don't. Wait, you fell off Mount Everest? Why were you up there in the first place? That's kind of how a lot of us think. Not to say that you shouldn't go swim with the sharks or climb Mount Everest. You should do whatever you want to do, but y'all know how we are, right? We're not really big on the crazy stuff. Or like at the office party. Anybody grow up like with your grandma and your mama told you like if you get a job and everybody gets drunk at the office party, you better not do that. You can't do what they're doing, right? That was how I was raised, right? I was raised to just kind of know you got to be careful because you're Black and they're not. And don't forget that you're Black. Some people forget. Some people say, I'm not Black, I'm OJ. And then next thing you know, they get cooked. And people are like, oh, see, we told you. We warned you. Right. So the point is that we are naturally risk averse. We are naturally conservative, which is a good thing. That's something you can build off that. Being conservative is a beautiful principle for building wealth. Warren Buffett, one of the greatest wealth builders in history, is very conservative. You're not going to see Warren Buffett chasing waterfalls. Warren Buffett doesn't chase, fads and trends financially. Warren Buffett was a very conservative. He's always been a very conservative investor. So because conservation protects what you have. Do you understand? So you can build off that. We can become the greatest wealth builders on the planet. We just have to use our conservative nature in an appropriate way. And we have to understand when we're really at risk. And the thing about risk is that sometimes you can think that you are safe and you're not. So you think you're safe because you got a government job. And then Elon Musk comes along with Doge and wipes out the government job. You think you're safe because you're the DEI, the director of DEI at a major university, and then they get rid of their DEI programs, and then you're done. You think you're safe because you had this job for 20 years and you're showing up to work every day on time, but then one day they decide to, the company downsizes or they get bought out or something changes, and then you're done. So what I would say to you is make sure you know when you're at risk and when you're safe. And the only way to really be safe financially is you have to make things like savings and investing like your top priorities. My grandmother was very, very safe financially, even though she never made more than $22,000 a year. My grandmother's behind me, that panther behind me. That's her name is Felicia. That's my grandma. I got to find something that to represent my mother too, because my mama is important for me also. But my grandmother was very safe financially because she had the same conservative values that the elders had before integration came along. I think integration made us drop our guard. We got caught with our pants down. When you traded land and businesses for student loans and corporate jobs, you were made economically vulnerable. You were sucked into a culture of excessive consumerism. My grandmother was not an excessive consumer because she knew that as a single mother with four kids, wasn't nobody gonna come save her. She knew that there was no Superman. And so really, I would say to you that this is a value system that you may want to re-embrace. And then when you compound that with investing, the only thing that would have really supercharged my grandmother's conservatism is if she had been able to be convinced to put some fraction of her income in the stock market. If she had done that, she would have died a very wealthy woman, a very wealthy woman. So keep if you're conservative, keep being conservative. That's a smart approach. But don't be scared, right? Take risks, just be efficient with the risks. In fact, it makes me think about poker a little bit, actually. I like poker. I told you it's a fun game of strategy, psychology, and math. I don't like gambling, but I like poker, and I'll play these little poker terms. So it's like $2 to enter the tournament, that kind of thing. And and there was this really great poker player named Doyle Brunson. He's an old guy, been around since the 40s or 50s or some 50s and 60s. I think he started playing in the 1950s. And Doyle played a strategy that was interesting that I actually liked a lot. I embraced it. He called it tight and aggressive. Tight and aggressive. So tight and aggressive means that he usually wasn't going to participate in any hand. He wasn't typically going to his default response to any situation, any scenario was I don't want to get involved, right? I'm not going to participate, right? So just like investing, right? I don't want to do it. No, 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 no. I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. Why? Because I want to preserve the wealth I have. I don't want to just fling it around and trick it off and lose it. But when he decided to participate, he went hard. When he decided it was so when he decided to be involved, he was going to be aggressive because he knew that being aggressive maximized his chances to win. It maximized his chance to get you to fold and maximized his chances to win at the hand because he knew that when he came in, he was coming in with something strong enough where he had a chance to win. So I think that tight and aggressive strategy, just to apply it to investing, is it's kind of like black conservatism. And I'm not talking about Republican Democrats. I'm talking about just in terms of you being risk averse and risk aware and risk conscious. I think that's a good thing. Keep being that. But when you decide you want to participate in something, you have to be able to switch modes and not let your fear cause you to increase your probability of failure. So when you think about starting a business, think about it for a long time, process it, talk to people, get all the information you can get, take your time. But when it's time to go, it's time to go. In Silicon Valley, the white boys out there, they have a saying that I actually like called move fast and break things. Having the courage to fail. Do you have the courage to fail? I know you got the courage to win, but that don't take no courage. Winning don't take a lot of courage a lot of times. Succeeding and getting what you want, what's courageous about that, right? You're standing at the top holding the trophy, but do you have the courage to fail? Have you done enough therapy and enough healing from your trauma where you know how to process the disappointment in a way that it's going to benefit you and not cost you? And this is where Alicia's research on trauma is so important because a lot of us, not that every black person is traumatized. I don't assume every black person has trauma. If you are that 1 in 10 or whatever that had no trauma, then God bless you. I'm happy for you. But those of us who went through some stuff, that trauma can cause you to just freeze up. You get one rejection, you walk away because it's bringing up all these other emotions that relate to something that happened to you when you were in the sixth grade. And that deflects from your ability to maximize your probability of success. So while I sit here and cough, give me a second. I really should have bought some water. Oh my gosh. So that's probably my cue to finish up. I want to encourage you to become too big to fail. Hey, can y'all give me a second? I'm gonna get some water. I don't know what I'm choking on. Okay, I'm back. Oof. Oh Lord. Okay, so let me know if the message got through. Let me know if you got what I was saying. Right. Maybe tight and aggressive if that's your strategy. At the very least, conservatism in investing is your friend. One of the things, one of the predictable problems of hip hop culture being integrated with finance is that so you have guys that go on the Breakfast Club and they're talking about investing, but they talk about it in a way that's very sloppy and very irresponsible. And the problem is that when they collect a bunch of money from investors and something goes wrong, then you're talking about things like getting, 20 years in federal prison, stuff like that. So ultimately, I worry about all of the people that feel that we need to take some of this toxic hip hop culture. Not that all hip hop is toxic, but the toxic side, and we're integrating this into the wealth journey. On one hand, it feeds into the necessary assertiveness required to be successful as an investor, right? Pushes you to go for it. But on the other side of that, it can put you into unnecessary situations where you have made an inefficient or a risk inefficient decision that's really put you and your people and your family, in extreme jeopardy. I remember the last story I'll tell about this, another Dame Dash story is, Dame Dash did this great interview in 2015 where he was talking about being the boss and really just saying, like, saying some interesting things like, no man should call another man boss. It's like calling him daddy and you should quit your job and be the boss and everything else. And I liked the interview. I liked a lot of the interview, but some of it I just said, well, that's not really something I agree with completely. And I got a call from Charlemagne, the host on the Breakfast Club, and he was telling me that he wanted me to come in and kind of like sort of slow down some of what Dame had to say, like give another perspective. And I said, well, I'm not gonna say that he was wrong. I think that as Black people, I think that we should be the boss of something, right? Everybody can't be the boss for sure, Latrice, but you can be the boss of something. You can be the boss of your stock portfolio. That don't mean you got to work. To be the boss does not mean you have to be running a business. The question is, are you the boss of something? Do you own something? You have to own something. Everybody can own something. Not everybody needs to always be the boss all the time, for sure. Right? If we collaborate, maybe nobody's the boss. Maybe we're all bringing something to the table, right? In my marriage, I don't look at me as the boss or my wife as the boss. We're both the boss, and that's okay. Do you understand? So this idea of being the boss, I encourage you to think about it in a more complex way. Don't think of it as just, I'm going to go be an entrepreneur and run a business. Um, a lot of times the people that make the most money are not the people running the businesses. It's the people that invest in the businesses. The investor, a lot of times will get money just because they put up the capital. The entrepreneur that's working 12 hours a day, they're paying a huge price. They may think that they're not putting up any money, but you're putting something in that's more valuable than money. You're giving time and energy and your just your sanity sometimes, So I would say that the spiritual and the time sacrifice of the entrepreneur is massive. And I would not undermine that, or I would not uh what's the word, underestimate the impact of that when you're thinking about what it means to invest in something. So when Dame did his interview on the Breakfast Club, I liked it, and I didn't sort of discredit what he was saying. I said, yeah, we need somebody to put a fire under us so that we understand the fact that we get oppressed. The number one way we get oppressed, the number one reason for Black oppression is a lack of ownership. If the brothers in the NFL owned the NFL or owned a large percentage of the NFL, they wouldn't have the same working conditions that they have right now. If we owned more businesses, we wouldn't have so much on-the-job discrimination. If we owned more stock and more other assets, we wouldn't have so many scenarios where we're doing things we don't want to do just to get enough money to get by. I when I talked to our youngest just the other day, and I said, look, the reason I'm talking to you about money is not because I need you to go worship money. I don't worship money. You shouldn't worship money. I said, I just want you to have enough money where ain't nobody out here telling you what to do. I want you to have enough money where no one can come in and violate your spirit by forcing you to do something that you hate. I want you to have enough money that you can defend yourself in a world full of capitalist predators that will take advantage of your economic desperation. So when you throw your child out in the world and they ain't got no resources, no skill, no pathway to financial security, you're dropping them off at the slavery discount store. That's what you're doing. You're just dropping them off at a financial ditty party and saying, "Have a good time." And literally, I'm telling you, and this is me being 100% real with you, and this is where I start acting triggered and I start feeling passionate about it. It's like, why would you do that to your child? Why would you do that to your grandchild? When just a little bit of preparation would have made a hell of a difference. Just the other day, Trump announced something about $1,000 being put in every kid's account or something when they're a baby, and it would be invested in the S&P 500. And I was like, okay. Like I think that's a great idea if they actually do it. I don't care who proposed it. I mean, if a Democrat proposed it, it'd still be a great idea. It doesn't change just because of who said it. I just don't know if they're actually going to follow through with it. But here's the other thing too. You could do that too. You could do that too. And people say, well, we can't afford to do it. We can't. $83 a month for 1 year, for your child. How many bills do you have that are more than $83 a month? You have 1,000 bills that are more than $83 a month, but you tell me you can't, for the most important thing, one of the most important things you'll ever do in your life. You can't put aside that money and pop it into an account for the kid and just leave it there. Or maybe put that $1,000 a year in there. I don't even think it should be $1,000 one time. I think it should be $1,000 a year or more, maybe 2,000 a year or whatever, right? Break it down into months. That becomes so 2,000 a year is $160 a month. 3,000 a year is about what, $240 a month. You got a car note that's $700. So how are you gonna tell me you don't love your child as much as you love your car? How are you going to tell me that your financial security is worth less than whatever you're spending the rest of your money on? That doesn't make any sense. That's not even logical. But maybe the reason it wasn't ever in your consciousness is because nobody ever talked to you about this because they led you to live under the false assumption that financial insecurity is just a common condition. It's an uncurable disease that everybody just has to deal with. And that's just simply not true. You don't even have to work for people if you don't want to. If you prepare a child enough in advance and give them enough resources, enough skill, they never have to have a job ever. And which completely flips the whole paradigm of how we live on its head. We're used to just thinking like, well, what are you going to be when you grow up? How about just being happy? But when I grow up, I want to be a father and a husband. Right? Maybe those are noble professions. Maybe those are noble objectives, right? Rather than like I want to be a fireman. Okay, thank God for the fireman. I love the fireman, but I don't think you have to define yourself by a career. I want to be a nurse, or I want to be a mechanic, or I want to be whatever, right? If those are things you love, then that's great. But what I find is that there are a lot of people who don't want to go to work, who don't like what they're doing, and they're doing jobs that they wouldn't normally. Like you're taking orders at Wendy's. Is that something you'd be doing for free if you had free time and you could do anything you want, or are you doing that because you're stuck in financial insecurity and you have to find enough money just to survive? Right. So let's not keep the kids in survival mode. We want to have them prosper. We want them to be successful. We want them to be on top. And that just requires just a tiny bit of preparation. It ain't even hard. The only hard part is the discipline of being consistent about it. Okay. All right. So anyway, I'm gonna get out of here. Quick reminder: tonight we're gonna meet for the stock options income class. So this is gonna be 8:30. So if you want to join us for stock options income and you want to dig into that, go to drboyceprime.com. Also, our estate planning club meets tomorrow, and we have a group called Legacy Investors for Tomorrow, Lift, Lift. And so if you want to participate in that, you can go to drboycelift.com. That's drboycelift.com. And also, last but not least, you can the All Black National Convention is in Atlanta August 21st to the 23rd, and it's going to be amazing. And I know that we're going to have some African presidents there. The president of Tuskegee heads the Black Chambers of Commerce. Going to be amazing. So if you want to connect with people that are doing great things that will see your business idea or help you develop one, there's going to be hundreds of people there like that. Thousands of people are going to be at the conference. There'll be hundreds that are millionaires and just doing great things. So if you're looking to meet other people that are as ambitious as you, feel free to go to allblacknationalconvention.com. That's allblacknationalconvention.com. And you may or may not know this, but I do have a Spotify podcast. One is called the Dr. Boyce Breakdown. The other one's called Dr. Boyce Daily Stock Market. So if you have Spotify, feel free to follow me on the app as well.